Hello, everyone, and welcome. Just give me a moment. I am setting up. I hope to see you out there. Come on through. So good to see you all. Just having a couple of technical difficulties, as you may know. Sometimes that is happening when you're dealing with technology. So welcome. Give me a second, and we're going to get started in a moment. So good to see everyone. Just log on in. Come on in. Come on in. I hope you all are doing well. It's so good I can't really see you because this is a webinar, but I can feel your energy coming through. So as you come through, give a shout out. Hello, Mr. Bosses. It's so good to see everyone. Thank you all for joining me. We're gonna get started. I just needed to go live on Facebook really quickly. Please give me a thumbs up if you actually see the screen that says teaching after the coronavirus. You see that coming up, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. This is gonna be very interactive if we're getting started. I see people raising their hands, so you do see my screen. That is fantastic. Welcome, 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 welcome. So without further ado, guys, let's get started. I'm so excited about this training. I know as we are moving forward, coronavirus is taking us over. And as teachers and educators, we're just filled with a lot of anxiety and overwhelmness. And so Build, Reach, Teach, I am Miss Draughn. And I am going to tell you a little bit about myself, but you are at the right webinar today. Let me tell you, we're going to be talking about teaching after coronavirus. They like to say coronavirus, COVID-19, however you want to say it, and how to adjust to this new norm in education. We are in a new norm, everybody, and I know this is overwhelming for everyone, but we got to get right into it. So welcome, welcome, welcome. This presentation will be engaging. I expect that we'll be using the chat box, the Q&A. You'll be doing some polls, so please participate. Please continue to invite other people to participate so that we can all be on the same page. And you can also use the Q&A box to answer questions along the way. But this hour is going to be just full of interventions and things to think about so that we can make a way for us as educators, parents, and leaders to move forward during this difficult time in education. So let's get started. Who am I? I have a quote that says, I cannot be a teacher without exposing who I am. So we're going to go right into who I am. Abraham Lincoln once said, the best way to predict your future is to create it. And I am a big believer of that. In my life, I am a mother, a wife. That is my husband, Maurice, and my daughter, Marlena, and a sister to many. I have been in education for 15 years. I am a dean of students at a charter school here in Michigan. I do training, and I started my own educational consulting business in 2017 because I saw the need that teachers needed more support and resources. And so most of my training is on classroom management, community building, and engagement. So I love helping and supporting teachers. You all are amazing. You rock. You are the future. And I just know that during this time today, we're going to share, you're going to give some great ideas. And something about me, people that have influenced me, I would definitely say my mother and my faith in God. Okay, so that's a little bit about me. Now it's time to share. Tell me one thing about you in the chat box. So if you go to the chat box right now, you should be able to type in one thing you want us to know. Again, we all can read these chats. Right now we have about 22 people online. And so we want to make sure that we tell somebody something about yourself. Let's share right now and see what we got in the room. So we also have an educational consultant in the room. We have someone that is a paraprofessional, a parent, a mother of 6, amazing, that's wonderful. An educator of 34 years. She was a school leader. I'm a teacher. Hi, Miss Wygo. Some of my students, some of my teachers that I work with are on here. I'm so excited to see you all. They're looking forward towards the new challenges this year. I have a lot of teachers online, and I love all the shout outs. So thank you all for sharing and telling us something about you. It's important. Even though we're in a webinar, what you say and how you display your story is so important. So let's get into it. What we're going to do is go right into it and watch a video. I'm going to play this video, and then after the video, I would like for you to give me your thoughts again in the chat box on what you think. Okay, so it's only a couple of minutes. You might have seen this clip, but we're going to get right into the coronavirus and what it's done to our educational programs and how it really caused us to shift and think in a different way. So here's the clip.
Well, Glenda and Alan, still there are so many questions for parents about safety when it comes to back to school. The district here in the Grosse Pointes has already made the call. Students will not be coming back to their buildings in September. They will be doing remote learning. The governor telling us so far she's going to continue to let the districts to make those individual decisions. But of course, that could always change if things get worse. As parents across Metro Detroit struggle to answer the unknowns about the upcoming school year, there's new evidence that the coronavirus does not spare teens and kids. A surge in cases among 15 to 19-year-olds in Oakland, Livingston, and Genesee counties has Governor Gretchen Whitmer reminding us that no age group is immune.
This is something that every one of us can contract and carry, and we might not even know it. And unwittingly bring it home and perhaps be fatal for another loved one in our own household.
Despite increasing
infection rates, the governor says as long as we're in at least phase 4 of her My Safe Start plan, school districts can make their own decisions on whether to bring students back to the classroom or keep them learning remotely.
So every district should be able to resume some form of in-person learning. However, districts are putting together what that plan looks like.
When I asked if she planned to close the schools with the current COVID-19 case number trends, she would only say it depends on which phase each region is in.
That's the overarching decision that I need to make at the state level. So if you happen to live in a part of the state that is in phase 4, there's going to be, in-person learning, but there's strict protocols, and the school board and the superintendent are articulating what those look like and working with parents and teachers to make sure people stay safe.
Governor Whitmer also says she's trying to make sure school funding will be in place for all districts, even as budget discussions are on hold. That's because the Michigan legislature had to shut down this week after a Republican state senator tested positive for COVID-19.
We got to take the politics out of mask wearing. I don't want anyone to get sick. COVID doesn't care what side of the aisle you sit on. It is a disease that can be deadly, and it spreads fast, and it could keep our kids from getting back into school.
The governor also says she's counting on Michigan's congressional delegation to try to get more funding from the federal government to help the schools during this unprecedented crisis. Reporting live in Grosse Pointe Farms, I'm Heather Catallo, 7 Action News. Well, Glenda and Alan, still there are so many questions.
So with that said, let's move on and talk in the chat. We're using the chat box again. What are your thoughts on that video? You heard the facts, you heard what the governor said, and I know there's a lot of politics involved, but the bottom line is there's things that are going on in our world with education and COVID-19. Put in the chat box your thoughts. Let's share as a community and let's read some of those thoughts. And I'm gonna read some of them out loud. I'm gonna get to the next screen here. And stop sharing for one moment. There we go. And then I'll go back to sharing. So let's go over that. What are some of the thoughts? Let me go ahead and read some of these right out of the chat here. Technology is great, guys. We got to get used to this. Come our wonderful school year. We're all going to have to go through that. Okay, hopefully you all can see my screen as I'm trying to move to the next screen. Let's see, there we go. So some of the things I'm hearing in the chat right now based on that video: flexible, required to manage the ever-changing environment. All learning will be distant learning, whether we're at home. I feel that someone putting here, I feel it sounds much simpler. Yes, exactly. It sounds much simpler than it is in real life. That is so true. My son is an elementary kid, and I am skeptical about the kids wearing masks. That is so true. I think that virtual schools are making the right call by going virtual, and there's a lot of anxiety of teaching. So you all are speaking the language most people are doing it, and I appreciate that because this is going live, and sometimes it's hard. to, you know, speak your truth. And so the things that you're saying is that is so important. Another person said, I hope parents can be supportive despite their politic views and try to be positive for the kids. Yeah, because there's a lot of controversy about, well, why can't the teachers teach? Why do we have to go to virtual? You know, and so it's a lot to think about as we move forward. But I want to give you some food for thought, because you all had some really great thoughts. Crisis gives us an opportunity to create a new norm. And I want to go back one slide. Let me go back one slide. What is normal? Let's talk about what is normal, because in our society, we come up and we, you know, basically conform to certain ways based on how we're taught and socialized, okay? So what is normal? The meaning of normal is conforming to an acceptable and recognizable standard, right? In good standing and mental condition. So when we think of it can be an adjective or noun, the word normal. But it's something that is in society, we have told ourselves that this is what we make normal, okay? And in this crisis situation, I'm gonna go ahead and do the first poll for everyone. I wanna know, how do you feel about returning to work? So I'm gonna launch the poll. If you can go ahead once you see it come up and give us your feedback on that. Are you excited? Okay, but have a lot of questions, you're scared and not ready. What are your thoughts on that? Okay, because it's very important for us to talk as a community, and these are the same questions we need to be asking our students, parents. You need to be asking these questions as well. Are you ready for your child to return to school? You can also answer it that way, because what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing is that the unknown. And so when we're used to a normal routine and something changes, especially in education, because you know we're so structured, and we have, right now we'll be doing our classrooms, getting all our binders and materials together. This is very scary. So what this is saying is that 67% of you all are saying, you know what, I'm okay, but I have a lot of questions. Many of you are saying, I'm scared and I'm not ready. And that's a real feeling. And so we have to embrace that and sit in that for a moment. Because when you think about normal, it is not our new, it's changing to a different normal. And this is why I said crisis give us an opportunity to create a new normal, okay? Is that the crisis that we're seeing, the meltdowns, the big mess, the politics, people dying. I mean, it's an airborne disease that can kill you, the potential of hurting someone. It's a lot to think about, right? So when we think about this moment right now, we have to really think outside the box and redefine, what is this crisis telling us? Only professionally, but also, not only professionally, but also personally. So it's sharing time again. It's gonna be a lot of sharing time. I want you to share, what are you most afraid of in returning to school this year with your students? Or if you're a parent, what are you most afraid of as it relates to you returning your student back to school? So, chime in the chat box again. And let's talk about, what are you most afraid of? What are some of the things that you're concerned about? So one of the teachers said, I'm a music teacher and we're doing it all virtual. And I'm sad that I can't teach music and sing like I used to. I know, because music is such an amazing voice to voice. So that is going to be different. Another teacher said, catching it, absolutely getting sick. I'm afraid of that. That is absolutely. And also just the social emotional well-being of our students. People are afraid of children and staff people actually dying. One person said, to be honest, they're grateful and thankful, but this pandemic has affected their mental health and really has tested the difficulties in their own life. And the other thing is difficulty with technology. How can our students really learn? Some of our students need that personal one-on-one connection. So the biggest fear is not being able to meet their need. Definitely for special ed students, and how are we going to make sure we meet their need and physically be able to be there for them, and be able to interact. And then the school, I love this. Someone said the school, no follow through. That's excellent, because schools, we're held responsible, but when you get in the building, it look and sound a little different. So it's important during this process and during this crisis, whether you choose to send your kid or you have to go back to school, that those protocols are put in place. It's going to be difficult, because I can't imagine elementary kids wearing masks. They can barely keep up with a pencil, and you all know that. We all know this. So now we're talking about they got to keep up with masks. And the fact that now they have to be on screen, that might be too much screen time. So you guys are killing it in this chat. You're really, bringing up the issues that make a difference. And for me, healing comes about talking. You have to talk about it and heal as a community. And we worried about those connections, and we worried about those communications and relationships. But as a parent, as a teacher, and an educator, you can take this moment right now and create a new norm for you and your family, okay? Because I know this is hard emotionally on many, many people. Because I say all the time, teachers save the world. They truly do. And so I'm excited because it's one of those things that if we didn't have teachers, we wouldn't have the world that goes around and around. So on that note, I thank you for even still continuing on this journey in spite of the crisis that we're going through. So here's the thing about crisis. If you are always trying to be normal, you'll never know how amazing you can be. And this is by Maya Angelou. Here's what I want you to understand. If you always are trying to fit in the norm of what is going on, I need this back, I need the same routines, I need for it to go back like it was before, and we all know education had its own issues, you'll never know how amazing you can be. See, when you're pushed and you're actually tested through a crisis, there's something about the human spirit where people just show up and they come up with ideas and they think outside the box and they have an energy that they have among themselves that they can and they will be able to create not only with their child, but through their students. So stop trying to be normal because you'll never know how amazing you can be. This new normal is whatever you created as an educator, as a parent, as a student, as an administrator. This is your story to tell through COVID-19. So teaching after COVID-19 can be a new normal that you create that will help you as an educator or parent to move forward in the right direction. It doesn't feel right now, but sometimes that us feeling uncomfortable can move us into things that'll stretch us and help us make better choices for ourselves and our family, and of course, the people that we serve in education. So be amazing, continue to do what you're doing, and continue to be on task on what else can I move forward in spite of what is happening, okay? So I had to do that introduction part because it was a nice welcome, but here are the 3 areas that we're gonna focus on with our time together. So the first focus area that we're going to talk about, what you should expect at the end of this webinar, you should expect it starts with you. We are going to talk a lot about self-care, okay? So when we talk about what strategies that we can do and how to adjust to this new norm, it starts with you with self-care. Number 2, we're going to talk about what is your focus right now, okay? Change your mindset and you can refocus your classroom experience. And to me, this is key. Now, we just talked about all the stress and the anxiety and social emotional issues that we're experiencing with COVID-19 and how it has flipped our world upside down. So right now we have something on our mind that we have to shift as we move into a new school year. The last thing we're going to talk about is connecting versus communicating. Effective strategies to meet the need of your students, okay? And again, these principles and strategies, yes, they are, talking teacher related, but if you're a parent, there's a lot of things that you can do at home to help motivate and to help support your student, to keep them abreast to what they need to do, and also to help them social emotionally through this difficult time. Okay, so thumbs up if that's all right. We're going to get started right into the first one. So the first one is self-care, and we're going to do some reflecting and polls and chatting again. What I want you to think about is you see all these words here: physical condition, acceptance, pleasure, support, slow down, choices, attention, awareness, priorities, right? These are all the things, and we think of self-care, things that we should be doing. But I would say parents and educators, they have a hard time taking care of themselves a lot of times because they're nurturers. They like to give, and that's why they're so good at it. Parent is not easy, and definitely teaching is not easy. And so because it's one of those things that they like to give, unconsciously over a period of time, parents and teachers tend to neglect themselves and do not take care of themselves like they should. We're all guilty of this. So when we think about self-care, the first thing we're going to do is take a deep breath. Okay, we're going to stop and take a deep breath, and we're going to just do a little moment of reflection here. So I'm going to show you a poll again, and I want you to answer these questions, okay, in the poll. Here is the first question. Taking care of myself is important. Always, sometimes, rarely. As the poll is coming up, I want you to just give your feedback. And again, this is an honest poll. We're just kind of just taking a deep breath as a community and really thinking about this? Okay, excellent. So most people have answered. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll, and then I'm going to launch it. You guys should be able to see it. So it says that about 46% of you all said, I always think it's important. And about 54% people said sometimes. And I think this rings true to the reality. Sometimes when you're serving in a capacity to help someone else, it is so easy to neglect yourself. And through this virtual COVID-19 experience, teaching afterwards, if you haven't learned anything from this experience of COVID-19, you have to take care of yourself, okay? Because when you're in a crisis, if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to help your students or your child the way you want to. Because you're going to be so stressed out thinking about the what ifs, what if, that you're going to lose focus and not be able to take care of you, okay? So let's answer another question. I want to answer one more question. This is about what happens when you're in a crisis. It says, and I'm going to launch it, I want your feedback. My best response in a crisis, this could be personally or professionally, is to be cool and focus on positivity, relax but anxious about what is the next step, panic and worry about it all. Where would you fit yourself somewhere in between there? I love the honesty here on this poll. You all are great. This is great because this is how the whole world feels right now. We're talking about millions of people that are feeling this way. And trying to create a new norm is not easy when you've been conditioned a certain way, especially as a teacher. If you've been teaching for a long time, this is not fun. And so right now we're in a crisis. Most of you all said, and I'm going to go ahead and launch it so you can see, share the results. There we go. Be cool and focus on positivity. That was 14. 64% says relax but anxious about what will happen next. And I think I'm in that section too. And then 23% of us said, you know what, panic, I'm worried about it all. And wherever you are, it's okay. It is really okay, because here's what we need to know. Self-care starts with you. So what I'm going to say to you, take care of your mind and your thoughts. Take care of your physical health and body. Okay. If COVID-19 has attacked people's body, their respiratory system, and have, basically went in there and destroyed them. And some people have recovered, amen to that. And some people have not recovered. And we have lost a lot of people, and millions of people around the world have been affected. So we have to take care of ourselves. We have to take care of our spiritual health. We have to increase our own well-being through self-care behaviors, which means we have to shift our mind. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. And we got to take care of our emotions. It is okay not to be okay right now. As a teacher, as an educator right now, it's okay, because through this crisis, there's going to be an opportunity where you can have positive growth. I know that sounds crazy, but it's on its way. We have to go through that. So tell me one thing you want to work on. Go ahead and put in the chat. If it was one self-care thing you can work on, you can look here on the actual, the slide. There's some great suggestions here. Put in the chat one thing that you need to work on, something that would help you tremendously through this process. Let me see what we have going on in this chat here. Someone says spirituality, excellent, taking time for myself. Especially if you have kids, this is very difficult because, again, we're always trying to meet the need. Drink more water, take more walks. That's excellent. Get more sleep. Good on that, get more sleep. Yes. Physical health. Somebody said find a boyfriend. I'm good for that about relationship. That's good. Do more physical activity. Take care of my health. Work on my emotions and sleep. You all are nailing it. And taking care of yourself can be difficult because sometimes we don't put ourselves as a priority. So how can we change? How can we do this more consistently? Here's 3 strategies that I want you to consider, okay? Learn to relax. That was a good one. It's hard for me to relax. Here's 3 strategies, 3 steps to gain control over your self-care, okay? So this is where, and this presentation, for everyone that register, I will send it to you in a PDF form, and I also will send you all the links. But the step number 1 to take control of your self-care is, number 1, your challenge. I'm going to challenge you all for the next 30 days to do the following. So this is a challenge. You came on the webinar because you wanted information, but you're going to walk away with a little bit of homework and some challenges. Your first challenge for the next 30 days is to do the following. I want you to make a commitment every day to do something for yourself. Anything. It can be big or small. And I'm going to give you a document that has 100 things that you can do every day. And it doesn't have to take long, but every day you have to make a conscious commitment to do something for yourself. And this includes not so much with your kids, not so much with your job, because sometimes we get caught up in that. Do something for yourself that you love, that you're passionate about, that you want to do. So that's your first challenge for the next 30 days. We can do this, guys. The second thing is I want you to get a journal, and I want you to call it I Am Grateful Journal. And I want you to take just 5 minutes a day and write down what you're grateful for and why. And that's what my screensaver says. What are you grateful for and why? Because here's the thing about taking care of yourself. Sometimes we focus on so many things that are going wrong, so many things we have to do, that we don't take the time to just sit, be still, relax, and really think about the things that we're grateful for. When we're able to move and shift our minds in that way, self-care will become easier, because we're taking the time to appreciate ourselves, that we're going to do more of that. So get a journal, doesn't matter what kind. And I want you to spend 5 minutes a day for the next 30 days writing down what you're grateful for. And what's the beauty of this is you go back and you start to flip those pages for the next 30 days. It is going to blow your mind and make your heart filled with joy of all the things that you have not only done for yourself and the things that you're grateful for. Because in this time, in order for us to take care of ourselves, we have to reflect on what is good, because there's so much negativity around us sometimes. Okay, the third thing, and this is a very difficult challenge, but I know you can do it. Be in the moment, okay? We're going to make a commitment to do something every day. We're going to get a journal. We're going to write down what we're grateful for, and then we're going to be present in the moment. This is very difficult, but I want you to choose a family outing, an upcoming PD, a time with friends, or some type of personal interest. This has to, the only rule is there's no social media moments, okay? You can't be using your phone in the process or downloading things, no electronics, no social media moments. We're talking about in the moments, taking a deep breath and just being present, okay? And again, there's a great resource called Live and Work, and I'm going to give you 100 ways for self-care. So these are your challenges. These are some techniques I want you to do. You're going to make a commitment to do something every day for yourself. You're going to have a journal, and then you're going to be present in the moment. And here's the thing, when you're present in that moment, I wrote this question down because I think it's really important. When you're present in the moment, you want to talk about, first you want to embrace that moment. And then you want to talk about, ask yourself, how can this moment help me? In this moment, how can this moment help me? You want to do some reflection. So if you're spending time with your family, and I mean intentionally spending time with your family, how in that moment can that help you move forward for yourself? Okay, so then again, being self-care is not selfish, okay? It is a part of who you are. So let's talk a little bit in the chat. Out of these 3 things we've asked, 3 strategies, and maybe you only could do one, okay? Maybe you only could do one, but these are just 3. Which one do you think you'll try? So let's chat it out in the chat. Out of the 3 of these things that are on the screen, make a commitment every day to do something for yourself. Get a journal, or choose a moment that you can be present in. Let's see what people say they can at least try. Okay, many of them said they're going to do something for themselves every day. I have a couple ones that said they're going to get a journal. I love it. I love it. Someone said they're doing all 3. All right. It's so hard to be in the moment because our minds just get so caught up. But it's a skill that you have to practice. So we're all in this together. You know, we're on this webinar together, and we can do this. We're going to motivate each other, and we're going to just be present and just explore life, be appreciative of life, be appreciative of ourselves. We're going to be grateful by writing the things down and reminding ourselves, and we're going to take care of ourselves by doing something big or small for ourselves. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next component, but you all have some wonderful feedback in here about just engaging and being more mindful and just taking on the initiative to take care of yourself. Because here's the reality as we move on to the next component of today. If you don't take care of yourself, nobody else will. I think people try. I know there's a lot of people that love you, but you only get one of you. And as an educator, as a parent, as a student, as an administrator, this work teaching can break you down. So you have to take care of yourself. You have to make the commitment. All right, thumbs up. You all are going to do this. I know you are. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about our next component. So we just talked about self-care. We're going to talk about refocus. So where is your focus right now? So we're going to do some more sharing. I want you to share in the chat box, what are you constantly worried about right now? This can be personally or professionally. Maybe you're worried about what school gonna look like when you go back. Maybe your district hasn't made a decision whether it's gonna be virtual, in person, or both. Maybe you're worried about how you're gonna teach the kids online. Tell me what you're constantly worried about right now. And I'm gonna read this quote as you guys are just thinking about that question, where's your focus right now? The first step towards getting somewhere is to decide that you are not going to stay where you are, okay? So this is key, because when we refocus, we first gotta start to make a conscious decision in our mind. Where's my focus and how can I change it? But before we get there, let me look in this chat and see how people are doing with what they're focusing on. Being prepared, health and safety, my child development and growth. We're talking about safety for everyone involving schools, health. I won't be good enough for virtual teaching. Yes, you will, and we're gonna get you there. Everything, grad school longs, teaching online. I'm worried about the teaching kids virtually and will they be engaged? Not bringing COVID-19 home to my family, teaching virtually and making sure that the children get what they need. You all are just really sharing and opening up the doors. These are the concerns that many people stay up at night, have anxiety about, and they're worried about. And this is why, because when you worry, you care. And that's just what it is. And so how can we take our cares in the right way? Prepare my students for school, finding balance to take care of myself and be there for my students. I'm worried that I can manage all of this. Someone just says, I'm just worried if I can manage it all. So when your focus is right there, and all these concerns that you guys see in the chat, sometimes it overwhelms us and we just lose focus and we're all over the place. And then that causes more stress for us. And so let's talk about how we can change that, okay? So when we refocus, I want you to know something about your thoughts. Here's the truth. What you focus on the most increase. So if you're focused about whether or not you're going to get your child ready for school in the fall, or whether or not you're going to be able to do this virtual learning experience, the more you focus on that, that's going to increase. You get more of whatever you focus on. So if you want to change the way you see things and COVID-19 teaching after this whole idea, you have to change your focus, okay? So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna ask ourselves. So when you start to worry, when you start to see some of the things we just went over in the chat, you gotta ask yourself, do I want more of that? Do I want to worry about more of me learning how to do this virtual program? Do I want more of that focus of whether or not my kid is capable of handling this? Whatever it may be, you need to ask yourself, do I want more of that before you give it any of your attention? Because the moment we give it attention, then we're not able to refocus in a way to be able to help move forward. Because here's the thing, COVID-19 not going anywhere, just like the flu was here for forever and it's still here. We have to learn how to live with this. And it's very fragile right now because there's a lot of uncertainty. And so we want our focus to be on the things that we can change, on the things that we can control. So when we think about refocus, where you decide to focus will determine your personal gains during this difficult time. Okay, so it's going back to the whole concept of, I don't know what I'm going to do. The more you focus on that, that's going to determine where your professional and personal gains come from. Because we want to make sure that our focus in a place where we can really be able to handle and fix some things. And that's why we worry, because we want to fix it. But in this case, with the COVID-19 and teaching and actually sending our kids to school through all of this, whether it's personal or in person, it's overwhelming. And so we can't focus on the things we can't change. And we are in a situation where we have to learn how to refocus and be effective in that. So that's what we're going to talk about right now. How do we change our refocus? So I'm going to give you some strategies. We have strategies for self-care. We're going to have some strategies to changing our mindset and refocusing. And again, there's just 3 ways to change your mindset and refocus your classroom experience. And this is even as a parent, you saying the classroom experience, okay? So make sure you flip that and look at it that way as well. The first thing we're going to do is accept the things you cannot change. We cannot change COVID-19. I just said that. We can adjust and create a new norm and move on. We as educators, as parents, maybe you all are at this stage, but we got to accept it. And then we have to figure out how we're going to create a new norm and make it work. And then we're going to move forward. Listen, kids are very resilient. I know we're worried about engagement in virtual online. These kids can work, these students can work these computers. They can work the computers and programs better than you, just to be honest, as teachers and educators. They got this. We have to put structures and expectations in place and hold them accountable. And then we have to partner 100 times closer with our parents to engage them, to make sure they feel comfortable and they're partnering with us so that we can make sure that we're meeting the needs. But we got to accept what we cannot change. That's number 1, okay? Because it is what it is. Number 2, it says number one, but it should be number 2. And this is, again, I'm challenging you to do these things. Every day, speak positive affirmations into your life and into your students' lives. Start your class, start your morning with your students, if you know, at home. Start your class with an inspirational quote or short video or poem. Many people may start things spiritually with a Bible verse or whatever you have. Speak into existence the things that you expect in your class this year. Again, I'm going to say that. Speak into existence the things you expect in your class this year. If you believe it, your students will believe it. If you believe it, your parents will believe it. Parents, if you believe it, your students at home, your children will believe it. No matter the situation, your expectation is that good things will take place. And that's the truth. Good things will take place in spite of it. And good things are going on right now in our world. I know that the news saturate a lot of back and forths with a lot of things, but right now there are great things happening. So speak into existence the things that you expect in your class and in your home, and start with that inspirational quote, short video. There's so many resources. You've got to speak life into this thing, because our minds will continue to tell us, I can't do this. This ain't what I want. Why is it like this? And then we lose our focus, and then we become worried to the point where we can't get where we need to go. Okay? So we're going to accept the things we can't change. Every day, we're going to speak positive affirmations, whether you write that on a sticky note, whether you put it in your phone. There's so many different ways you can do that. And that takes a couple minutes a day. But when you get your class started, you definitely can be doing this in class as well with your students. Okay, the last thing, each week, starting with school and even this week, create a goal, whether it's big or small, and achieve it. Create a goal, whether it's big or small, and achieve it. Log the goal. So you're going to get another journal here. You're going to log that goal and refocus your energy on the things that was accomplished. Again, as educators, we have these long to-do lists. Even as parents, all these things we got to do that sometimes we don't take the time out to really embrace the things that we have accomplished and we have done and that we do well. So the first week of school, you can write down those 2-3 goals you want to accomplish. If your child is at home, what are the things that you could be doing to work with them to make sure they feel comfortable and confident? If you are a teacher and you're teaching online or in person, what are some of the things that you can do within the first week? Small goals to meet the need of your students. That might be simply everybody got a password, they know where they're at. Guess what? You achieved it, it's done. That may be, you know what, I got them up on time, they're able to log in without my assistance. Listen, you achieved it and it worked. So we have to take small steps and really think about the smaller pieces that make a bigger picture. Okay, and I hope that makes sense. So, okay, so right now, let's go in the chat box. Out of these 3 ways, what are one of the things you think you're gonna try? So let's chat in the chat box really quickly and give some feedback on some things that you think you would try in the chat box. Out of these 3 things, which one you'd be willing to try? Okay, Someone says all three. Okay, Miss Mason, I love it. Daily affirmation, creating a goal and achieving them. All right, Miss Weigel, that's excellent. I'm going to try the positive affirmation one. All three sound good to me. Affirmations for myself and my students. Ms. Cleaver, that's great. I'll do the affirmations, number 1 and number 2. That's excellent. And again, these become a habit. Okay, so we have to create a culture with some of these strategies. The more you do it, the more it becomes a part of who you are, and it becomes a part of your culture and your community. And the more you speak it, it will exist, and that will bring a set of mind change that you need. It will allow you to refocus, okay? Creating the goal for my child and students. I love it. Speak affirmations with my kids. So these are the things, these are the 3 things, because right now there's so much uncertainty. If you get up in your class or you working with your students, say, hey, you can do this, we got this, and you have the right energy and the mindset, that will change the way they see and feel the situation that we're all working with. So we've talked about self-care. We talked about shifting the mindset. And with our last 15 minutes, we're going to talk about the last strategy, connecting versus communicating, okay? You guys have been doing a great job. I love all your feedback. But I want to read this quote from Martin Luther King. And it says this: if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. Martin Luther King Jr. You guys got to keep moving forward. In spite of what we see and what's going on, collectively, we're going to get through this. But it takes time and it takes patience. And it takes some of these strategies that we're talking about and putting in place for you to see the other side of this. So let's take another poll, okay? My last poll here, respond, because we're going to start talking about student achievement, we're going to talk about student engagement, and we're going to talk about connecting right now. So in the question poll, it says, when I need my students to follow my directions, or when I need my child to follow directions or complete a task, I normally would. What would you normally do? Communicate a demand with a tone of urgency, communicate a need with an expression of care. What are we doing? How are we doing this? So again, we have parents and we have educators on the line, everybody's sharing. Again, from when I say my students, it can be from a parent point of view or a teacher point of view. This is really good. So I'm going to end the poll because most people have done it, but it seems like most of us, it's creating a need with an expression of care. And I'll show the poll for you all so you can see it. Share results. There we go. So 64% of us are saying we communicate a need with an expression of care. And I'll explain what that means a little bit. And then some of us really have to communicate a demand with the tone of urgency, depending on the situation. And I'll talk a little bit about what the difference is. So we're going to jump right into this slide. It says it's time for a change. And with what we're going through, it clearly is a time for a change. So how are we going to move forward? How are we going to do this? I have a couple of notes that I want to share. I want to share 6 different strategies with you about how we can move forward about connecting versus communicating. So when you are communicating a tone of urgency, it's an assertive voice, like, I need this to be done now, okay? And then the other thing communicating with care is, you see a situation with the student at home or even on class, and you'll see this when you start seeing them virtually, even though they may be behind their computer, they still will act the same. Some of the kids and their behavior and thoughts and feedback. And so we have to find how to communicate and connect with them in different ways. Connecting is getting to know someone, okay? And that's what that expression with care is. Communicating is really letting them know a demand or a task or something that you need them to do. And it normally speaks urgency, like, I need this to happen now, or this is due now. You need to have the world of both, communicating and connecting. If you want to be balanced as a parent or as an educator, you have to have both of these worlds. And so that way the needs of the students are met. So the first thing we're going to think about is being prepared. Know your content, practice it. Start with a community activity in your virtual and personal class. Engage the students and ask them questions. As parents, check in with your students. Know the teacher's content. Make sure you follow up with the teachers, and I know you all do, but with this virtual experience, we got to work really close to one another and make sure we all understand and practice the expectations of the classroom. So that's number one. We got to be prepared, and we got to break this stuff down, and we have to know our content, and we have to practice. You might have to practice the virtual experience online, going back and forth. On Zoom, they have a lot of practice screens of you just talking to yourself in the mirror and teaching, because you want to convey the right content and you want to be able to connect and communicate the right message. So that's number one, be prepared. Number two, care. I know you all care. We're not going to go through that. You all care because you're in education. And the fact that you took the time out to do this webinar shows that you want to grow and you want to move forward. So I broke down CARE to an acronym, and it says show concern and affirm real emotions. Through this process, it's going to be so important that we show and show concern for what's going on with our students and confirm their real emotions. And you say, even with your own child at home, I understand this is hard. This is difficult, not being able to have the same organization and routines and procedures we used to have. But together, we're going to get through this. Validate that and let them embrace that and sit in that emotion, that this is hard, that it makes me angry, that it makes me sad. You want to meet the needs of your students and your children at home. You have to have those conversations about how do you feel. And you have to be honest and be vulnerable as a staff person or as a parent and say, you know what, I feel that way too. This is a part of the process of teaching after COVID-19. We cannot just go back in the classroom like everything's normal and just start throwing all these assignments out. These kids social emotionally need that validation that someone care enough to ask them and validate their emotions. So that's really important, to listen and respond. Obviously you need to be gentle but firm. And that's important that we keep that open line of communication open. Okay, number 3, start with the strong classroom management program. I have a link to this again with some online resources. But again, I want to keep saying this over and over. You have to know how to work Zoom, Google. You have to have all those things in place. So you need to be taking some online courses. You need to be checking links. You need to be practicing. You have to have a plan with classroom management. Virtually is going to be a challenge, but you need a plan, and you need to practice, even in the classroom and even at home with your students. You should be practicing the routine. They should be having a space in their room or in somewhere in the house where they're going to practice getting up in the morning, going online if that's what you're choosing for your child to do, which is stay home. They have to have all these things have to be practiced. And then you have to hold your student and your child accountable through relationships. I'm about accountability through relationships. And if you don't have relationships with students, they will only just rebel against you. You have to know their names and what they like. And so it's important to do community circles. It's important to get to know each other and start out with quick icebreakers and short but fun stories about each other. All about community building and checking in on each other emotionally as a part of building classroom community. And that takes me to the fourth one, which is build classroom community. So having that strong word management with routine and procedure and practicing, but also building a community. I think it's really important that students learn leadership abilities. So training them to run effective community meetings, whether it's virtually, in person, or even family meetings at home, is important. They have a voice, and we need to embrace their voice and make them a part of the solution. A lot of times we just tell the kids what we need them to do and don't make them a part of the solution. All the feelings you've been having about COVID-19 and how it's affected you, it's affecting them the same exact way. You know why? Because we're all humans and we all bleed and die the same. Even though we have all these different politics and things that try to divide us, we all have human connection, and that's so important. So build community, allow them to run meetings, be present, ask the questions about their self-interest, and bring the community together through laughter and circle time, and set those classroom norms. Let them know what is expected and how we're going to get this done together, and hold them accountable when they fall short. You might have to redirect them. You may have to do a one-on-one. You may have to call their parent and have a meeting. But kids want consistency and they crave discipline. And even if we're virtual, we still have to be able to give that to them. Okay, number 5, classroom management is key. This is key, using games, using music, creating opportunities. Obviously, we're going to be using technologies, having student-led lessons, using movement. If you can incorporate food while they're at home, anything to engage kids and then allow them to be a part of the process. They have all kinds of creative things like TikToks and their social media accounts and video editing. They can do a lot, these young, wonderful people. We just have to open up the doors of opportunity and allow them to be themselves. And this is a great platform virtually that we can do that. So thinking outside the box is going to be key. Okay, it's going to be key, and you definitely going to want their input and making sure that they know what they're doing, number one. But number two, you may ask them like, hey, what do you think? Do you want to try this project? Would you like to do this verbally? Would you like to write it and type it up? Or would you like to do a TikTok video? Give them options and choices to engage themselves in a way that make them feel a part of the learning process. And it takes stress off of you because you all are working together as a community. Classroom engagement is a big piece. I will give you a tool, but if you're going to connect and meet the needs of your students, even at home, parents, there's so many things that you can do with homework help that will allow you to be more engaged with your student learning. And again, I will connect those links. Last but not least, take a risk. And this is a big one. Get your students' feedback. So you all know that our educators about these exit tickets. This is critical in this process, especially if you're doing virtual. It is important that you open up the door, take a risk. And why do we need to do exit tickets? Because we want to make sure for understanding. We want to make sure we met the student need. We want to make sure they do a self-analysis of what they got and what they need. And then we need to do some self-reflection is a part of growth. So when you self-reflect, you're able to grow and look at some things. A student should be able to tell you what they've learned and what they've gained. And if a student leaves your classroom not understanding, they're going to be disconnected. And that means they're not going to be engaged and you're going to lose them. So when we think about connecting and communicating, again, we have to do all of these things. And there were many more other strategies, but these are the 6 that I just decided to focus on, to really think about how we can move towards change. And even if this is virtually, these are the things that we really should be thinking about. If you like me, you're praying about, and we should be practicing about. So I've said a whole lot. I want to hear from you. Go ahead and type in the chat right now. What are out of all these strategies, which one do you think you need the most work on? Out of all the strategies, where do you think you need the most help and support on? Okay, I'm going to go to the chat box. You guys are there. I see you. What do we got? Out of all of these different things, what do you think you need the most support? Okay, classroom management came up. Engagement, excellent. Especially if you're a special teacher and you're into music, or you have to do gym, or well, computers may be a little bit easier because they'll have access, but it's still that content. How are we going to do that and still be efficient and effective? That is going to be key. So in that article that I'm going to give you, is going to have some good resources. Classroom management and engagement, being prepared on how to work Zoom, building community digitally. That's going to be very much of a challenge, being prepared, especially with so many unknowns. I know it's like, how do you prepare if you don't know where you're going? How to do this online, GE teacher, technology, take more courses, Zoom, Google. So a lot of people are saying I have to practice the different technology tools that my school will be using now that we're going virtual. Finding good online resources, keeping students focused online. So you all got the gist of this, that you all definitely know where your deficiency is and what you need to do to try to focus. So we've talked about self-care, and you all have some challenges that you're going to focus on. So I'm going to hold you to it. I'm going to send you up with a follow-up email, just checking on you, making sure you're doing some of these things. So we talked about self-care. That's number 1. We talked about changing our focus and focusing on the things that we can know that we can do and we can do well. And then the last thing we just talked about was connecting versus communicating. And we gave you some 6 strategies here to think about. Okay, so that's pretty much our webinar. You all were pretty amazing. I want to say this: genius is the ability to renew one's emotions and daily experience. I know there's a lot of emotions that are going on about going back teaching after COVID-19. However, you can and you will adjust to this new norm. But if you can take that emotion that you're feeling and reflect on it and change it into something positive. So if you're angry that your district don't have it together, and find something in that situation to renew the way you see that situation. That means refocus and say, well, maybe they just don't know what they're doing. So that's why we're just waiting around trying to figure it out. So we're going to have a lot more patience and mercy and grace, right? That might put more pressure on the end trying to get it together, but all districts are trying to figure this out because this is such a new norm for everyone. But you have the ability to change your emotions, how you're feeling certain situations as a parent or as an educator, and turn that around. So one last poll, and then we're going to open it up for questions. And this quote is when I let go of what I am, I'll become what I might be. And that quote really speaks to, sometimes we are just so caught up in what we think we are, but sometimes when we let go, when we take care of ourselves, get in the right mindset, and just accept the things sometimes we can't change, we become the person we should be, okay? We sometimes get in our way of our own personal growth, is what I'm saying, professionally and personally. Again, just talking about parents and educators. We get in our own way. And so we need to think about that for our own personal view, how we can change and move forward, okay? So in the chat, last poll, I want you to give me some feedback. I've enjoyed having you all. You all are amazing. And I know that this is a difficult time, but I want to know your thoughts about the webinar. I want to continue to do this for my own business, Build, Reach, Teach. But I want you to go ahead in the poll if you can and let me know if this was helpful. Was it interesting or not at all? And it's okay. I provide quite a bit of resources on buildreachteach.com, so you can follow me on that, as well as you can follow me on Instagram, and you can always email me. We're in this together. When I tell you we're in this together, we're in this together. So I appreciate you all's feedback and all of the comments and the chats and things, because it's motivated and encouraged me. So thank you for your time and for your effort. Last thing, please type any questions you might have in the chat box, the Q&A box. I want to thank you for coming, and I want to say never lose hope. Storms make people stronger, and they never last forever. So right now we're in a storm, but they will make you stronger, and they don't last. This storm with COVID-19 won't last forever, I promise you. And we have been through a lot of things in our world. We will get through this. And you all continue to do a great job. You continue to do everything that you can as parents and educators, and we will get through this. If you have any questions, and I have one question, is everybody mute? Yes, everyone's mute on the webinar. If you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box or the Q&A. But I thank you all for this, and I appreciate your feedback. But I want you to know that you're gonna be okay. We're gonna be all right. And thank you for your time. I have one question. What would you tell a teacher that is considering leaving the profession because it's too much? This is a really good question, and I really appreciate the question. It is a lot for a teacher right now. Teachers are asked to put their lives on the line. So what would I tell a teacher that is actually considering leaving the profession of teaching right now? I would tell them, and I'm going to say this because I'm in education and I know they have to make these own individual decisions. But I want them to remember why they came to education in the first place. Teachers are the only field that touch every life. In order for you to get anywhere in your life, you have to meet a teacher. So if you're thinking about leaving the field, think about why you came in the field in the first place. You need to write down the pros and cons. And I think if we focus on this self-care stuff we talked about, if we focus on, controlling things we can by refocusing and really focusing on some engagement strategies, we sometimes make ourselves overwhelmed as teachers because so much is dumped on us, in educating, even in parenting, that happens. But I would say you need to consider it and ask yourself those questions. Why did I come in the first place? And write down the pros and cons. Ultimately, you need to make the best decision for you and your family, particularly if it's for your mental, financial, social health, because that needs to be #1 priority. Thank you so much for that question. Any other questions or thoughts? I see a lot of things in the chat. What would you tell a teacher who just started and feeling overwhelming? I would tell you to hang in there. You have a lot of teachers. I know you are at the school that I'm at. We're going to be there to support you. Make sure that you ask a lot of questions. Make sure that you follow up. And if you need support, make sure you reach out because we're all learning this together. Okay? Well, again, I thank you all for your wonderful, wonderful feedback. I will be doing other webinars throughout the year that will be free for teachers to log on, and we're going to be talking about the teacher experience. So definitely keep the buildreachteach.com website, and you'll get updates through that to make sure that you can get all the information. But I hope this hour of power was good for you. I know that we are going through difficult times, but I want you to just remember as we're closing out, what are you grateful for? And take that moment, whatever you're grateful for, and lean on it. And know that that moment's going to be able to push you through and help you become the best educator and parent you can be during this time. But will there be teaching after COVID-19? Yes, it will be teaching after COVID-19. But it'll just be a new norm, and we'll adjust together and we'll make the adjustments. Okay, thank you so much, guys, for coming out. And thank you so much. This will be, like I said, on my website, and I look forward to hearing about your interventions as a teacher, and definitely be looking out for that email, for this PowerPoint, and all the links to the resources that was chatted on here on the webinar today. All right, bye-bye, and take care. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And all from my Facebook Live friends and family, thank you for watching. And I hope that you learned something and got something out of this as well. Have a good day.